Hello everyone, welcome to the YouTube channel of Floxus, and here we are with the 12th part of Python Bootcamp course. And today in our session we are going to see about concept of threading in Python. Basically we are going to see how we can create thread and how we can use the module threading module and how we can import thread class from there and we are going to we are going to code and we are going to see how we can actually create multiple threads, how we can work with it, and what is actually the concept of threading. Okay, so before seeing what is a thread, let me just show you or let me give you one example. So here you can see in this image what is happening. This image is actually showing a man who is doing multiple tasks. Okay, at the same time, he can do multiple tasks simultaneously. Okay, he can write, he can he can work with his mobile, he can do many things. Okay, so this is showing multitasking. Okay, multitask. Okay, now here comes the role of thread. Okay, what we will do, we can actually, okay, taking another example, like in this machine, suppose I'm using, like I'm working in my PC, okay, and I'm using MS Excel, okay, I'm working something, okay, there, and at the same time I'm listening to music, okay, and also I'm installing something from Chrome, okay. So what is happening here, I'm doing multiple tasks. Okay, I'm like this machine is doing multiple tasks at the same time. Okay, and we are not even having we are not having any interruption there. So here comes the role of core. Okay, like you will understand, there's like multiple core are working at the same time. Okay, and that core actually from here the concept of thread comes. Okay, what is happening, multiple processes are working, and inside that process, like taking one application, suppose uh like yeah just taking one example, suppose I'm writing some content in MS Word. Okay, suppose I'm writing some content in MS Word, and you will see that in that specific application, what I can do, I can change font, then I can, like, there are some, like, as I'm writing, you can see if I have done any grammatical mistake, then it will show a green line. Okay, and if any spelling mistake is there, then red line. So what is happening in the background, there are so many things that are happening, that are actually working. Okay, so that is the concept of thread. That means in this specific process, that is, in this specific process, we have multiple threads that are working simultaneously, and that threads are working in different cores. Okay, or when they can work in the same core also. Okay, now let me just show you the like in the task manager how it is actually working. Okay, let me just show you what is how the process work in single core. Okay, so like suppose let me just show you. Okay, so like suppose we are having processes, like suppose this is process 1, this is process 2, this is process 3. Okay, we are having three processes that are working. Okay, now what will happen in in single core, if we have only one core that is there in our CPU. Okay, so what will happen, yeah, so let me just show you this, like suppose, yeah, this process is working. Then if I want to if I need to execute this process, then this needs to stop and it will work like this. Suppose process 2 is working, then process 1 will stop. Okay, and then if process 3 is working, then process 1 and 2 need to stop. Okay, then again this process 2 will work, then again this process 1 will work. Okay, so are you getting how actually in single core how it is actually working? It is working one by one. Okay, so so if process 1 ends, then again process 2 will start, then again if process 2 ends, then process 3 will start. Okay, this is happening in single core. Okay, now let me just show you what will happen. So as you can see, at any given time, there is only one process in the execution in the case of single core. Okay, we can see this. Okay, and therefore concurrency is only a generalized approximation of real parallel execution. Okay, so this kind of situation can be found in systems having a single core processor. Okay, this is how actually happens in single core. But nowadays we can see that we are having multiple cores. Okay, so what happens there, let me just show you by the diagram. This the concept of parallel execution in case of multiple core. Okay, so multi core, it works something like this, like this p1 can work independent of this p2. Okay, and this p2 can work independent of p3 and p1, and this p3 process 3 can work independent of p1 and p2. This is in the case of multi-core. Okay, let's write it in case of multi-core. Okay, in this case, so as you can see, at any given time, all processes are in execution. In reality, it is the subtask of the process. Basically, it is like if you will see in in actual what is happening. This is actually the sub processes. Okay, if you will see, it is actually the sub processes that are working. But you can consider, or for understanding the concept, you can just consider that it is the processes that are working, and they are working simultaneously. Like you can see, they are working without like affecting each other. Okay, so yeah, you can visualize them as processes, and how they are working in the core. Okay, in multi-core. Therefore parallelism is the real way in which multiple tasks can be processed at the same time. Okay, if I need to do multitask, then I need to have this concept of like parallelism. Okay, that is, in parallel way we can see how the processes are working. Okay, this type of situation can be found in systems having multi-core processors. Okay, it can only be possible if we are having multi-core. Now let me just show you how you can get to know about like whether your system or your pc is multi-core or not. You can go to task manager. Okay, and there you can see how like inside this task manager you need to go to performance, and inside this you can see, yes, here you can see this core. Okay, let me just show you. Here you can see the core is 2. We are having two cores, and then here you can see threads. You can see this is the thread, this is the processes. So you can understand in the background in your pc, like you can see how many processes are working now currently, and inside that processes we are having the number of threads that are working. Okay, so basically processes are actually the, like inside processes we have threads. Okay, threads are the subtask, you can say. Okay, these are the subtasks that are happening in any specific application. Okay, so you can understand it by going to the task manager. You can see how many cores are there in your pc. Okay, so yeah, I guess this concept is clear now. Okay, so now let's just see how we can create thread in Python code. Okay, how we can see the concept of threading in our Python programming. Okay, so when programmers run a simple program, okay, if like I'm running any simple Python code, I am having any Python file, suppose .py, any ABC Python file, and like I'm going to run this Python file. So what will happen? We know that the execution starts from the first line and it goes one by one. Okay, so execution starts at the first line and proceeds line by line. Okay, also functions and loops may be the reason for program execution to jump, and we know that like if we are assigning any variable, then yes, we know that the interpreter will read that line. Then, and also we know that when a function is getting executed, or when the interpreter will read any function, only when it is called. We know that if we have defined any function, suppose fun1. Okay, and then like I've written some part of code. okay, inside that function. So this code, this part of code will only get executed, or you can see it will, the interpreter will read those specific code only when this function is called, okay, we know that. So only at that time the, like, yeah, you can see, we can see that only at that time the like, what happens, yeah, what happens, this, that will be the reason for program execution to jump, or you can say like it will interrupt it. But it is relatively easy to see its working procedures. We know that we can easily understand how it is working, and which line will be next executed, we know that, because we know the concept, okay. So programmers can put their fingers and can trace the lines of code that will be executed. This is called single threaded programming. Okay, so let me make you clear one thing, that like as soon as you like you are writing any Python file, okay, so if you are having like, what is happening, there is one main thread, okay, we are going to come to that, don't worry. So we are having one main thread, it is actually executing line by line, okay, there is no problem in that. It's simple, like what I have explained here, that is, you can trace where the interpreter is, how the codes are executing, okay. So you can trace that by putting your finger, any finger, okay, trace the line of the code. However, in the case of multi-threading, like, now let me just show you how the concept of multi-threading occurs in your programming, okay. Till now I have shown you how you can see the concept of threading in your PC, okay, but let me just show you in your code, okay. So if we are having only single threaded, or you can say, yeah, single threaded programming, then it will execute line by line, and it will only get affected in case of the function, or you can say, yeah, in case of functions, okay, or loops. But yeah, in case of multi-threaded, what happens, you can put, yeah, you can consider this like just putting your second finger, okay, on your program, and then both the fingers move the same way and will be executed simultaneously, just the same way like I have shown you the example how the processes were working without like interrupting each other. Just the same way, we can have the concept of multi-threading in our programming, where we can execute like, suppose I'm inside this Python file, so I can execute this line of code and this line of code at the same time simultaneously without affecting each other, without interrupting each other, okay. So that's the concept of multi-threading in our Python programming. That's the concept, but we are going to see how it actually looks like. So let me just show you. This is, we know that thread is inside, or you can say thread is basically a subtask that is inside a process. Okay. We are having a process inside that we have this main thread. Okay. You can just take it example. Main thread is simply as like a thread that will execute line by line. Okay. So inside that main thread, we have task one and then task two. Okay, or you can say thread 1, thread 2, that are executing like simultaneously, okay. So this is the task 1 and task 2. I'm going to show you how you can code it. Okay, so what is a thread? I hope till now you are clear with the concept of thread, but still let me just give you a definition, proper definition, so that you can tell it to anyone, okay. So a thread is a separate flow of execution, we know that. This means that your program will have two things happening at once, but for most Python 3 implementation, the different threads do not actually execute at the same time, they may merely appear to, okay. So it is tempting to think of threading as having two or more different processors running on your program, each one doing an independent task at the same time. That's almost right. The threads may be running on different processors, but they will only be running one at time. Okay. So yeah, like I don't think I need to explain it again and again. If you're clear with the concept of process, if you're clear with how in the multiprocessors how they are working, like basically what is happening, whatever the thread is, they are working in different cores and they can execute at the same time, okay, if they are working in multi core, okay. So yeah, running several threads is similar to running several different programs concurrently, okay, but with the following benefits. Now let me just show you what is the concept of multiple threads. Multiple threads within a process share the same data. Now I have explained this. Let me just show you. Here you can see. Now, what is happening? This thread one, suppose, what is this? This is task one, that is thread one. This thread is actually sharing the same space, or you can say it is inside the same process, and this thread two is also sharing the same space. Okay, same space or the same data. Okay, so that's what it was telling in the case of multi thread. Okay, in case of multiple threads within a process, it will share the same data and space with the main thread. It will also share it with the main thread and can therefore share information or communicate with each other more easily than they were separate processes. Okay, it will make our work more easier. Okay, threads sometimes called lightweight processes, or it is simply means that it is the sub process, or you can say it is the subtask of that process, and they do not require much memory overhead. They are cheaper than process. Okay, what we are doing, we are actually, see, if you have a lot of work, okay, if you have a lot of work, then it will look like a bundle. Okay, it will make you feel loaded. Okay, you will, like, yeah, you will think that yes, I need to do so many work, so many work. But if you divide those work, then it makes you work easier. Okay, if you divide it in subtask, or the same concept is there in this, the process is getting divided into small tasks, and those tasks are known as the concept of thread. Okay, now here you can see the following diagram shows how the application does that. Basically, main thread starts. Okay, first of all, as soon as we run any program, there is one main thread that starts. Okay, and inside that, if like first thread starts its work, then main thread simultaneously, our main thread will keep on working. It won't get affected by any other, so like any other task that is there, or sub process, or you can say the sub thread that is there, it won't get affected by that. It will continue to work, and then we have second thread that started works. Okay, basically they are working their work. It's like, suppose there is one company. Okay, there is one company. The company, what does that company do? It divides its work with, like they make what I can say, they divide their work in different domains. Okay, like there will be one IT sector, there will be one management sector, there will be another domain. Okay, so what is happening, they are working in their work, they are working in their domain, they are not interrupting each other. Okay, and at the same time, the head of the company will also do his or her work. Okay, at the same time, it won't affect IT company or IT sector of that company, or you can say the management sector of that company. Okay, so that's the basic concept. Okay, there will be one main thread that will start, and what happened, it will continue to work, and the same time the first thread, or you can say the sub thread that was there, it will start its work, and then second, third will also start. Okay, so yeah, now what is the advantage of threading? So the main advantage of threading, multi-threaded programs can run faster on computer system with multiple CPUs, that is the processor, because these threads can be truly concurrent. Okay, like what is the I have already explained the concept of concurrency and parallelism. Basically, concurrency means any work, like suppose process 1 will execute, then after that we have process 2 that will execute. Okay, then after that process 3 will execute. Okay, and at that time, this process, like suppose if process 3 is getting executed, then process 1 and 2 is on hold. Okay, that's called concurrency, that is overlapping of time is happening. Okay, and in case of parallelism, what is happening, process 1, process 2, and process 3 are working simultaneously. Okay, so by the help of this multi-threaded programs, it makes our work fast. Okay, obviously if they are working parallelly, then it will make our work faster. with multiple CPUs, okay, that is multiple processors, okay, and because these threads can be truly concurrent, okay. So yeah, a program can remain responsive to input, okay, this is true with both on single and on multiple CPUs, okay, then allows to do something else while on one thread is waiting for an input output task. Like suppose if my thread 1 is executing, okay, and it is like it is waiting for some input, or it is waiting, it is on hold, suppose, okay, it is working on input output, then thread 2 can work independently, okay, thread 2 will work, or if inside this thread 2 I need to print something, then that will be executed, it won't stop for thread 1 to execute first, okay. So yeah, some programs are easy to express using concurrency, which leads to elegant solutions. Okay, easier to maintain and debug. Okay, so at some of the time, this process, that is concurrency, is actually helpful. Okay, so yeah, threads of a process can share the memory of global variable. Okay, we know that. Like basically, I've already explained that the threads will share the same space of the process, and then as with the main thread. Okay, if a global variable is changed in one thread, this change is valid for all the threads. A thread can have local variables also. Okay. So I guess there is no problem if you are clear with the global local variable concept, then I don't think it will have any problem in this concept. Okay. Basically, what are the advantage that we can do our work faster, okay, with the help of multiple CPUs, or you can say processors, okay, or you can say the core, okay. So yeah, multi core system. If the concept of multi core is clear, then you can easily understand that, okay. So yeah, now let me just, okay, I will explain this. Let me just show you how we can actually create a thread, or what is the concept of this thread class, okay. So there are variety of ways you can create threads using thread class, so we can cover three of them here. So let me just show you. We can yeah, pick the one you feel most comfortable with, not to mention the most appropriate for your application and future scalability. So basically uh, yeah, basically we have three ways in which we can create a thread, okay. So first is create thread instance passing in function, okay. Like suppose I have created any function, and what I'm doing, direct creating the instance of the thread class, okay. For that, what I need to do, I need to first import the threading module, and inside that I need to import the thread class, okay, from that threading module, and then what I can do, I can just create the instance of thread and pass the function that is I need to create the target for, or you can say the thread for, okay. So this function will work as thread 1, okay. I will show you, don't worry if you are getting confused now, don't worry, I'm going to show you the code, and there everything will be clear, okay. I'm just giving you the rough idea, okay. Second P is create thread instance. Same way we need to create the instance, or you can say the I need to create the object of the thread class, okay. If you remember the concept, I have already explained, instance simply means creating an object of the class, okay. So passing in callable class instance, okay. So what we can do, we can pass the callable class instance inside that uh, thread instance, okay. Next is subclass thread and create subclass instance, okay. Basically we will use the concept of inheritance, and we will inherit the thread class to our subclass, okay. Don't worry if you are getting confused, because I'm going to show you all the three ways how you can create a thread, okay. So yeah, before moving further, or before going to see about the methods that are inside this thread class, I will show you these three methods. Okay, so let's just see how we can actually create, or you can say how we will import the thread class. Okay, so this is the syntax how we can import. This is our module. I guess you're clear with the concept of module. It is the built-in module, that is threading module. We will first check. Yeah, we will first import thread class. This is our class. Okay, we will import thread class from where? We are importing it from threading, okay, threading module. Now, like, many sometimes you, yeah, you must be thinking how we actually see the, like, how what kind of module it is. So this is the built-in module, that is built-in threading module. Here you can see. So this is how it looks like. It is already built in the Python. You don't have to change anything. You can simply import any attribute from this Python file. So I have imported the thread class. You can find where is the thread class. So, like, it will take a lot of time. You can, like, here you can see this is class condition. You can import this class too. Okay. So likewise, there will be one thread class. You can do that. So what I'm doing, you can just find it out. Okay. So what I'm doing, from threading, I'm importing this thread class. Okay. And then I'm importing this module, that is time. I haven't used it. That's why it is not showing any color in this. Yeah. So in this, like, first what we are going to do, we are going to create a function, or you can say, I'm going to create a thread by the help of what, by just instantiating this, that is this thread class. Okay. And I'm going to pass this function. Okay. So inside this function, what I'm doing, I'm printing this for I in range. I'm just printing this, I'm thread 1. Okay, this statement. Inside this function, I have this code, that is I need to print this 10 times. Okay. Now another function is there, that is thread 2, it is printing that. Okay, it will print that statement. Okay. So now what I am doing, I'm just instantiating, okay, or you can say I'm creating an object of this class, that is thread class. Okay. So I'm calling it, and inside this there is a format, or you can say there is one argument that we can pass, that will tell us that in which function we want to instantiate, or you can say what will be the our target function, or what which function will work like a thread. Okay, it simply means that. So we can pass, I have already explained that how we can actually use class, or we can say how we can call a class like a function, or even we can pass the argument. If you don't know about it, I would suggest you to go and check out that video. In class and object, I've already explained how we can do it. So inside this, what I'm doing, I'm passing an argument, and inside that, the target, or you can say the function that I want it to work like a thread, is fun1. So I'm just writing the name. And if any argument, or you can say any parameter, is asked inside this function, then you can just write comma, and then you can pass the tuple, or you can say the argument, you can pass it by just writing comma and then passing the argument. Okay. So that's the way how you can call, or you can how you can tell that I which part of the code you want it to make it like a thread. Okay. So target is fun1. There is no argument or parameter that's needed here, so that's why I'm not passing any argument. That is optional. Okay. Then t2 is equal to thread, that is I'm creating another thread, and that will basically create this function fun2 as the thread. Okay. And then what I'm doing, I'm using t1 dot start function, that is inside this thread class. Okay, that is first where we are going to the threading module. Inside this threading module, we have this thread class, and inside that thread class, we have this start function. So I will tell you what is the main motive of this start function. It actually starts the thread. Okay, it actually, as the name suggests, it's as simple as that. It is used to start the thread. Okay. So what, if we will run this, okay, if we will run this part of the code, let me just show you how it works. So yeah, let's remove this. Okay. So yeah, let me just show you. Yeah. So I will run it. Let me just clear this board. Yeah. What we are doing first, we are just creating. Let me just show you first by just running it. There is some mistake. Okay, so let me show you here. I guess comment part. I guess, yeah. Here. Okay. That's another code. Just ignore that. Okay. I guess now there will be no problem. Yeah. So here, you can see if I haven't used any concept of thread, or you can say if I have not created any any thread, okay, I have not instantiated this thread class, then what would happen? It would just simply suppose in simple, like if I don't use any concept of thread, then what we used to do, we used to just call this function, that is this fun one, and then we used to then what would happen, it just print I'm thread 1 10 times, and then if I used to call, like if I will call normally fun 2, then it will just print this I am thread 2 10 times, okay, and it will be executed one after one. It will not interrupt each other, or it will not be one line of this code and then two line of this code, okay. It's just that it will work one by one, okay, that's the basic motive. But if I use this concept of thread, that is what happens here, I am thread 1 is getting executed, but in between here you can see I am thread 2 is getting printed. How is it possible? Then again you can see thread 1, then thread 2, thread 1, thread 2, like it is not in order, okay. It simply means that they are actually they are want it to sleep for 2 seconds, okay. So what it will do, it will wait for 2 seconds. I guess I've imported it. Yeah, let me import this. Import time. This time module, you can see. If you click it, so it will get imported, okay. So inside this, I what I have done, time dot sleep and then 2 second, and then if you want this main thread to get imported, or to get printed after this you can say after this execution, then you can again write time dot sleep and then 2 second, okay. So that's simple way how you can do it. Even though we have one function, that is join function, that is inside this thread class, I'm going to tell you about it also. But this is how you can use this time module, okay. Let me just show you first dot py. So it is waiting for 2 seconds. Here you can see, and then two thread two, then 2 second, then main thread. So this is how this is working. You can see what was happening. It was waiting for 2 seconds after executing this thread one. Then it waited for like almost 2 seconds after executing thread two. Then main thread was executed. Okay. So I guess this concept is clear. First, what we have seen, just importing the thread class and then creating the function, then passing the or instantiating the thread class and passing the target function that I want it to make it like a thread. Okay. Then another way was just inheriting the thread class, creating a subchild. Okay. Then instantiating the subchild. Then what we were doing, we were just creating, or you can say t1 equal to, or creating the thread of that subchild, okay. So you can see, and then start function, just remember this start function is very important, otherwise it won't start your what you can say, it won't start your thread, okay. So yeah, another way how we can do it is like here, let me just show you. Okay, let me remove this. Wait a second. What will happen? Let me just comment it out. Yeah. So this is the code. That is what we are doing. We are going to, okay, so this is another way how we can do it. So what we are doing, we are importing the thread class. We are not going to inherit from the thread class. We are not going to create any child class. What we are doing, we are just creating any simple class that we normally create, and we are creating the init function. Inside that we are taking an argument that is number, okay. Then what I'm doing, printing this for 10 times, that is I am thread, and then whatever the number that the user will input. Then what I'm doing, I'm just creating, like what I'm doing, I'm calling the thread class, okay. Mainly I'm creating the thread class, but basically instantiating the thread class. But inside that, the target is not any function but the callable class that we have created, that is this class. Okay, we the target function is my thread, which is a normal class. It is not the subchild of the thread class, it is just any normal class. We are creating the target, and inside that we know that there is one like this init function needs one argument, and that argument we are passing is 2. Okay, that is number. And self, it will all automatically take the object reference. Okay, and again we are creating another thread, that is t2, and it is calling the instantiate, or you can say it is instantiating the callable class, that is here you can see my thread. Okay, what we are doing, we are here instantiating this my thread. Okay, and we are using it as target, or we can say we are creating it like a thread. Okay, and our argument is 1 here. So what we are doing, we are starting this thread 1, thread 2, and just see what happens. So you can see our thread has started, thread 2, thread 2, then thread 1, and I have already explained, if you want to order it, or you can say if you want to print it in any order, then what you can do, you can just import the time module, and you can like use the sleep function. Okay, so yeah, I guess now the three way how we can actually create the thread class, it is clear to you now, because that's very simple. We have discussed all these three things, that is creating the thread instance, passing function, then passing callable function, callable class instance, then subclass. Okay, I guess now it is clear. Okay, so we have done the practical too. Now let's come to some of the important methods, as we have already used these methods, that is the start function, then run function. Okay, that are inside this thread class. Okay, so the run method is the entry point for a thread. Okay, it is basically the entry point. It is actually used when we are having inside the start method. Okay, the start method starts a thread by calling the run method. It actually calls this run method to like it is the entry point of the thread. Okay, it's basically the start method, it calls this run method to start it. Okay, then join, this is one of the very important. It is used to actually, like, suppose I want to execute the threads, and then after that I want to print the main thread. Okay, so for that, what we can do, we can use this join function. It waits for threads to terminate. Okay, basically it waits that the all the threads that have been started, okay, that are running, it terminates. After that, whatever the code is, it will get executed. Okay, so I will show you that also. Is alive, it is the method that checks whether a thread is still executing, like it is running or not. Okay, basically we have state for a thread, that is we are having a state that whether they are like executing, running, or they are blocked, or yeah, so that's like is alive will check whether it is still executing or running. Okay, get name, it method returns the name of the thread. Okay, whatever the name of the, like suppose we were what we were doing, we were writing t1 is equal to, and then we were calling the thread class, so that will be our name. So we can get the name of the, or this method returns the name of a thread. Okay, then set name, method sets the name of a thread. Okay, so I don't think I need to explain it much more in detail. It is very understandable, you can understand it very easily. So yeah, that's how we can create thread using threading module. I have already explained the practical too, so I don't think I need to explain it again. Define a new subclass, then override the init function. I've explained it how we need to override the init function of the parent class to actually execute the init function of the child class. Okay, then override the run function method to implement what the thread should do when started. Okay, once you have started the new thread subclass, you can create an instance of it, and then start a new thread by invoking start function, which in turns called run function. Okay, as soon as you start, okay, actually whenever you start, or you can say what we used to do, we used to just write t1 dot start function. What it does, it actually calls the run function, which start executing the thread. Okay, so yeah, I don't think I need to explain it because I've already explained one example. So you can go through this, you can take this screenshot and you can execute this code. It's very easy. What we are doing, we are just, the output will look something like this. Yeah. So we are actually starting thread 1, starting thread 2, exiting main thread. Okay, you can see how user friendly code this is. It is actually having this init function, then run function. Okay, and inside this init function, we are actually calling the parent class init function. You can see. Okay, and then we have used the time sleep function. Okay, inside this, we have this delay variable, which will have how many seconds of delay we want. Okay, then we are starting it, and then this is how the argument has been passed. Okay, so yeah, then this start function, run function, I've already explained. Again, I will tell you. It starts the thread's activity. It must be called at most once per thread object as soon as you create an object. If you want to execute that thread, then you need to call this start function. It arranges for the object's run method to be invoked in a separate thread of control. This method will raise a runtime error if called more than one on the same thread object. Okay, if you are calling it like, if you have, once you have written that t1 dot start function, then again you are writing t1 dot start function, it will show you runtime error. Okay, run method, it method representing the thread's activity. It actually represents the thread's activity, that is running or what. You may override this method in a subclass, as we have already done this. The standard run method invokes the callable object passed to the object's constructor as target argument, if any, with sequential keyword argument taken from the arg, that is the keywords. I guess these are the basic concept that we have discussed in our, like, the arguments and functions session. We have already discussed these things. Okay, then join timeout, I've already explained what it is all about. It is basically used to, it waits until our all the, like, our threads get terminated. Okay, as soon as our all the threads get terminated, that is, it gets executed. After that, what it does, it will execute whatever the code is that is after that. So we have also seen one example, that is, we can use this to execute all our threads, and after that, if I want to execute our main thread, then we can use this, so that first our we can say that our child thread will get executed, and after that this main thread will get executed. Okay, then thread states, I've already explained that as soon as we are creating any thread, there is one state, that is in which state our thread is, that is whether it is running or it is getting blocked, or what it is all about. When start method is called, the thread is pushed into the ready state. Okay, that is, as soon as we call the start function, it is in the ready state, that is, it is ready to get executed. Okay, after that, it is controlled by the scheduler. Okay, so when the thread gets chance to run in running state, it will be in the running state, then scheduler call the run method. Okay, so it is initial state, then runnable state, then running state, then dead state, and blocked. Okay, this is the main four, or you can say five state that we have. Initial state means when, as soon as we are we can say after the creation of thread instance, as soon as we instantiated the thread, a thread in the thread in this state, but before the start method invocation, at this point, the thread is considered not alive. Okay, what we have done, we have actually created the thread instance. Okay, but before the start method, we have not, till now, we have not started, or we have not called this start function. Okay, so till that time, it is in the initial state. Okay, runnable state means a thread starts its life from runnable state. Okay, it is alive, or you can say it is alive, it is in, as soon as it is running, it starts its life. Okay, so a thread first enters runnable state after invoking the start function. Okay, so let me just explain you. T1 is equal to thread. Okay, What I'm doing, I'm just calling this thread, instantiating a thread. Okay, inside this we used to pass the target function or whatever the arguments were. Okay, and in this like if you write t1 dot, and then if you use to, like if you will check if it is alive or not. Okay, then it will show you that it is not alive. Okay, because it is not like it is not getting started, or we haven't used this start function. Okay, if you will use the start function, then it will go to runnable state. Okay, after invoking the start function, it goes to runnable state. Okay, then also we have running state. As soon as the thread is currently getting executed, it means that we have started the execution. There are several ways to enter in runnable state, but there is only one way to enter in running state. The scheduler selects a thread from the runnable pool. Okay, so basically as soon as you invoke the start, okay, we are in the runnable state, but when this start calls the run function or invoke the run function, it will go to running state, or the thread is getting executed. Dead state means when it run method completes. As soon as our run method, or you can say our execution has completed, it goes to dead state. If any thread comes on this state, that means it cannot ever run again. Blocked means a thread can enter in this state because of waiting the resource that are held by another thread. Okay, that is what is happening. Like it will go to this state. Any thread can go to this state, that is block state, when if they are waiting, because of waiting the resources that are held by another thread. Like suppose two threads are there, t1 and t2. Now t1 is waiting for, like suppose t2 is actually dependent on this t1. Okay, and t1 is asking for input. Okay, then at that time this t2 is in the block state. Okay, I guess these concept are clear. Basically what is happening, a thread can enter in this state because of waiting the resources, okay, that are held by another thread. Okay, so next we are going to see about this concept, that is synchronizing threads. So now we are going to see one very important concept that is related to multi-threading in Python. So we are going to see about synchronization of thread. Okay. So let's just see why it is necessary, like why we should study this. Okay. So this essentially means waiting for a specific thread to finish running before any other can go. Okay. Like suppose I have thread 1. Okay, and then I have thread 2. Okay, and what happens, we know that what is the main motive of using this concept or using the concept of thread. So the main concept or main motive of using this is that they are independent of each other. Okay, that means they execute simultaneously. Okay, so for sometimes what happens, it becomes difficult to actually manage. Okay, like if basically we can solve the problem of inconsistency. Now where we see this type of problem, like suppose let me give you one example. Like suppose imagine an online payment checkout. Okay, like suppose you are doing any transaction. Okay, you are doing any online payment. Then what are the steps that we follow? Let me just change the marker color. So, what are these steps that we follow usually? Basically, we first verify the payment, or you can say verify the card details. Okay, we do that. Then our next step is that we send the confirmation mail. Yes, we actually send the user that yes, your basically your transaction, or you can say that yes, your payment has been done. Okay, you can say this as payment or card details. Okay, we are verifying that. Then send confirmation mail or shipping details. We usually do that. Then loading the thank you page. Okay, that's the basic process, I guess, that we do. Okay, so what we do, loading a thank you page. Okay, So basically, we have three steps that we usually do while doing the online transaction. Okay. So what happens, like suppose it's mainly what these are different threads. Okay. You can consider it as thread one. Okay. You can consider this as thread two. Okay, you can consider this as thread 3, and these three threads are actually not dependent on each other. Like suppose what happens, like just imagine this condition: before actually verifying or before the payment details, or you can say before the transaction only, you are getting this confirmation mail. Okay, then how much problem it will be, like you can imagine how difficult it will be, that this confirmation mail you receive before your transaction. So you can understand how much difficult it is. Like suppose before moving to the like confirmation mail, or before even doing any transaction, you are getting this thank you page. So you can understand how much importance this synchronization of thread is, how much uh, we need it. Okay, so that's why we need to understand this concept, that is we need to have the idea that how we can actually synchronize the thread. Okay, so yeah, so yeah, so I guess this concept is, I guess, clear. Let me just read this. We can solve in that's actually the inconsistent, we call it as inconsistency problem. So we can solve this inconsistency problem by synchronizing the threads such that they will be executed one by one. Okay, for that we need to have this, that is we will use some like we can say we will use some class, or we will use some methods so that this concept will be clear. So we are going to see that the main application or areas for synchronization are online reservation system, as I have given one more example, that is online transaction, during online transaction, then funds transfer from joint accounts, etc. Okay, so there are so many example, you can go and see where actually this concept is. Okay, so yeah, how we can implement synchronization in Python. Okay, so basically in Python we can implement synchronization by this three concept, that is lock, rlock, and semaphore. Okay, so basically I will first make you understand this concept so that these will be clear by the same concept only. Okay, so let's just move to that. Yeah, so synchronization by using lock concept. Now, what is this lock concept? Okay, I guess by the name only you are getting some hint regarding it. Okay, that is lock are the most fundamental synchronization mechanism provided by threading module. We can create lock object as follow. Okay, so like first of all, we know that we need to import thread. Like first we need to import threading module. Okay, and from that we need to import this thread class. Okay, we know that, and inside that we need to create an object of this lock object. Okay, now before moving to the technical term, let me just make you understand that why we actually use this, or how it actually work. Okay, the concept of lock. Okay, so let me just make you understand that concept. Okay, so let me explain you the concept of lock by giving you one example. So, like, suppose we have two threads, okay? Like, we have two threads, and there is one global variable, or you can say a function is there, okay? That is having one global variable, that is x. Okay, and that function increments the value of x. Okay, so like initially suppose if I have this value, that is suppose I have 10. Okay, and what I'm doing, I'm just starting, that is like what I'm doing, I'm starting thread 1 t1 dot start, and then I'm doing this t2 dot start. What it does, we know that it actually, as soon as this thread get invoked, or the start function get invoked, what happens, the run method works and this thread get executed, it goes to the running state. Okay, so we know that. So what happens, as soon as we start, or we can say that as soon as we invoke the start method, what happens, this thread 1 and thread 2 simultaneously they start getting executed. Okay, so what happens, this thread, okay, this thread takes this value, that is 10. Okay, it takes this value 10, and also thread 2 is also executing. So what happens, this thread 2 will also take the value, and let me take some another color. Okay, so this thread 2 is also taking the value because it doesn't care, or it doesn't depend on this thread 1. Okay, so what it does, it simply start its execution, and what it does, it takes the value from this, like the global variable. Okay, it reads this value. Okay, read, and then this one is also reading this value. Okay, read. Now, what happens? What is the next operation that we need to do? That is, whatever the value has been given to this thread, it will increment it. That is 10 plus 1, that is equal to 11. And yeah, 10 plus 1, that is equal to 11. And they are working independent of each other. That is, thread 1 is getting executed and thread 2 is getting executed. What happens? Our result will be 11, and here also we will have 11. Okay, what happens, this mean this will whatever what is the value that it will be written, that will be 11, and then this will also give us 11. Okay, but what was our main motive? Okay, our main motive and our final, let me just conclude this first. Okay, our final answer is 11, but actually what I want, I wanted to have this thread 1 get executed first, and then I want this thread 2 to be get like to get executed after that. Okay, basically I don't want parallelism. Okay, I wanted to have the concurrency. Okay, concurrency. Now what I will do, I will apply this lock concept. Okay, although this concept is also clear, like we need sometimes this type of threading concept where we need to use this parallelism concept. But now what I wanted this function, or you can say, actually what is a thread? Thread is having some part of code. Okay, and that code is suppose a function. Okay, and that function is what, this function is actually having, this function is increment function. Okay, and this function is what it does, it actually increments the value. Okay, so what I wanted, first thread 1 to get executed, and after that whatever the value will be given, that will be the like whatever the result of this thread 1 will be. Okay, whatever the result of this thread 1 will be, it will be the input of this thread 2. I wanted that, but that is not possible, because what we are doing, we are executing, we are starting both the thread and at the same time, and they are actually getting executed simultaneously. Now what is the how we can synchronize this thread? Okay, how we can do the concept of synchronization here? Like I want first thread 1 to get executed and then thread 2 to get executed. So for that I will use the concept of lock. Okay, now let me explain you that. Okay, so by using this concept of lock, what happens? There is just imagine that there is one lock. Okay, there is one lock, and what happens as soon as this thread like this t1 dot start, and then we are writing this t2 dot start, that is we are invoking the start function, or we are telling that we need to start this thread 1 execution. So what happens, this thread that is this thread 1 is it is acquiring, or you can say it is requesting for a lock. Okay, it is requesting for a lock, you can say request, yeah. Like suppose it can be like thread 1 is going first or thread 2 is going first, but just suppose that yes, thread 1 is going first and it is requesting it for like before thread 2. Okay, so it is requesting a lock. Now what happens, this lock will start its work. Okay, it will start it work, and how it works, let me just explain you that. So after that, this thread 1 will do it, like whatever the code is there inside this thread 1, that will be executed as it was doing earlier. Okay, so what it will do, it will take the input, and the input was 10. what is the what is the code inside this, or what is the execution part of this thread 1. So the basically the function is that you need to increment it. So 10 plus 1 is equal to 11. Now what is happening, it is not getting interrupted by any other thread, or you can say no other thread is getting executed at this time. Okay, so now our result is 10, and then what is happening, read, this value was getting read, and then now what I will do, I will send this value to the global value. Okay, so I will do write. Okay, now what I have the value, or you can say now what is the final value. So I have 11. Now what will happen, this write has been done. I need to open this lock. Okay, this is very important, you need to understand this concept. I need to open this lock to execute any other thread. Okay, so now this lock has been opened. Okay, you can say that release, this lock has been released. Okay, you can say this is as release lock. Okay, so the lock has been released. Now what happens, whatever the thread, or any thread which was you can say which was in hold, or you can say which was waiting to get executed, will start its execution. Now this thread 2, okay, actually this thread 2 was also requesting for a lock, but it was not getting any lock. Why? Because this thread 1 has already acquired one lock. Okay, are you getting this point? Now what will happen, this thread 2 will acquire this lock. Okay, acquire this lock, and it will start its execution, request and acquire a lock. And what it will do, it will read the value from here. Now what value will be given here? So we know that now our input is 11, so 11 will be given. 11 plus 1, that is 12, and then write, write 12. Okay, and then the lock is released. Okay, lock release. Okay, so our final value is 12. Now I guess you are getting this concept, that what is happening, this thread 1 and thread 2. Okay, this thread 1 and thread 2, both of them were going at the same point. Okay, they needed to request, or you can say they wanted to have this lock. Okay, so the first one will get the lock. Okay, and it will get executed. Okay, it will get executed. Till then this thread 2 will have to wait. Okay, like suppose blue is the thread 2 color. Okay, this thread 2 will have to wait till then. Okay, as soon as the lock for you can say the lock for this thread 1 get released. Okay, then what happens, this thread 2 will acquire the lock. Okay, I guess this concept is clear now. And also, we know that this lock can be acquired by only one thread. Okay, like suppose what was happening, this thread 2 was also trying to acquire this lock, but it was not possible because this lock can be given to only one thread. Okay, you can understand it like that, that this can be acquired only by one thread. Okay, so till then this thread 2 will have to wait. Okay, needs to wait. Now yeah, so we know that how we can actually create an object of lock, so by just calling this lock and then this function. Okay, so yeah, now the lock object can be held by only one thread at a time. We know that if any other thread wants to want the same lock, then it will have to wait until the other one releases it. It's similar to waiting in line to book a train ticket, public telephone booth, etc. Okay, so we know that. Okay, so let me just explain you this. That is this two important methods that are there inside this lock. Yeah, so what we need to do, we need to, like suppose if any thread needs to acquire, or I can say needs to start or needs to take that lock, then what it will do, it will actually need this acquire method. Okay, a thread can acquire the lock by using this acquire method. That is, whatever the object name was, lock object name was, like what is the l is equal to lock. Okay, we are creating the object of the lock. Okay, so this object name dot acquire, that means this whatever the whatever the name of this object name is, then we are calling this acquire method. That means now that thread will acquire this lock. Okay. And then release method, this is used to actually open this lock. Okay, you can understand it like that. To open this lock you need to do this release method. Okay. So giving, let me just explain you this simple syntax how we can actually do it. So from threading you need to import all the attributes, you can say all the attributes. What I'm doing, I'm using this threading module and importing all the, like all the more important attributes in from that module. Okay. Now then what I'm doing, I don't have to again call again and again that from where I'm importing or what is the like how it is getting imported. I can simply write l equal to lock, that is the name of the, like how we need to call this lock. So for that I don't have to write, or I don't have to write like this thread dot lock. Okay. It understands that yes, all the attributes have been imported, so I can directly write this l equal to lock. So what we are doing, we are instantiating this. Okay, so we are creating an object. Okay, and the object name is l. Okay, so l dot acquire, it is the method that is inside this lock. Okay, so this is a method, and then lock acquired, it simply means that whatever the thread will come here, when it sees this line, it means that now that thread has been acquired, or now that thread owns that lock. Okay. Okay, so lock acquired. Now when I write this line, that is l dot release, that means that lock is open now. Okay, now any other thread can go and acquire this lock. Okay, so it's as simple as that. I have only one lock and I need to acquire that lock. So for that, only one person can hold that lock. Okay, just that, that's the concept. I guess it's clear for everyone. Let me change this. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. So, like, let me just explain you this simple concept, how it is working. Okay. So from thread import all the attributes, or you can say all the classes, all the we can say all the important methods that are there. Okay. Then import time module. We know that that is usually used for sleep, or you can say delay. If you want to delay any thread, then you can use this time method. Okay. Or if you want to print the time thing. Okay. So it's just simple. Okay, now what I'm doing, I'm creating an object of this lock. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm just instantiating it. Okay, so this is, will be the object name, that is l. Now I'm creating a function, that is wish, and the parameters are name and age. Okay, name and age are the parameter for I in range 3. Okay, l dot acquire, that means this lock, whatever the thread will come here, that will acquire this lock here, that is l dot acquire will give it, will give the lock at this point, and then print hi name. Okay, then time dot sleep, we are calling this time module, and then sleep method for 2 seconds. Okay, your age is this, and then l dot release. What does that mean? Lock has been acquired here, and l dot release, that means lock will be open here. Okay, it will be released here. Okay, now what I'm doing, I'm creating two threads, and you can understand here what I'm doing. Just giving you the basic, like just recalling whatever we have studied in this session. What we have studied, that we can actually create a thread, or you can say you can actually call this class thread class by just using this thread name. Okay, and then passing the target function, which I want it to be work like a thread. Okay, so what is my target function? That is wish. Okay, this I want it to work like a thread. Okay, so and what is the parameters? So I need to pass those parameter inside this argument like a tuple. Okay, and I guess this syntax is clear to everyone because I've already explained that. Okay, what is happening here? T1 and T2 has been created. You can say it has been initialized. Okay, this is the initial phase. Okay, now as soon as the start method, okay, the start method is getting invoked, That means now this T1 and T2 is going to get executed at the same time. They are independent of each other. We know that. Okay. Both of them has reached this point. Okay. Now T1 has seen that yes, both of them has come let me just change this color. Okay. What is happening? Both the thread T1 and T2 has come or has reached this point. Okay. Now what is happening? T1 enters this for loop, and T2 also enters this for loop. Okay. What happens? T1 has acquired this lock. Now what does that means? It's, you can just understand that there is one gate. Okay. You can understand that T1 and T2 both are standing outside this gate. Okay, they are waiting. But what happens? T1 acquired this lock. That means it locked, T1 has locked this gate, so T2 has to wait here. Okay, you can understand like this. Now T1 will do his or her work, you can understand like that, and then only T1 will go out and then allow T2 to enter. Okay, you can understand it like that. Okay, so what is happening here? Let me just yeah, so now T1 has acquired this lock. Okay, T1 has acquired this lock, and now T2 has to wait here. Okay, so what is happening? Hi, and then Siresh, whatever the name is. Okay, that is hi Siresh, and then for 2 seconds there will be a wait. Okay, and then your age is 15. Okay, then release. Okay, what happened? This lock has been released here. That means what happens? That means that T2 can enter now. Okay, T2 can execute its code. Okay, whatever the code is. Okay, so now T2 will give its parameter. What is the parameter? Nitya. Hi Nitya. Then sleep for 2 seconds, and then what is happening? Your age is 20. Okay, and the lock has been released. Now I guess this concept is clear because it's very simple and very easy, but the only thing is that it is very important. If you are getting confused, then it can totally change the concept here. Okay, so just understand this very important thing. Okay, so yes, synchronization by using R lock concept. Now we have seen that. Okay, before moving further, let me just give you one more example. Okay, so let me just give you one example. Okay, so here in this code, what we are doing, change the color. Hmm. So here in this code, what we are doing, we are importing the threading module, and we know that we need to use this thread class also. So we are just importing this module and then import time. Okay, so we are creating one class. Okay, we know that, and we are using the concept of inheritance, if you remember. Yeah, so there are many ways how you can create a thread. So if in that we have seen this, how we can actually create a child class of this thread class. So what we are doing, we are just using, or we are passing this thread class, so that this class, that is my thread, will become the child class of this thread class. Okay, now what we are doing, we know that we need to define this init function to pass any argument to this class. Okay, and we need to call the init function of the thread class. Okay, I guess I don't have to explain this again and again, I've already explained it. Now this what I can say, this thread id, then yeah, just passing the arguments. Okay, then remember, I guess you remember how we used to define the run function that is there inside the thread class. Actually what we are doing, we are overriding it. Okay, overriding it, and we are doing whatever the, like, what we want to get executed as a thread. Okay, so we are going to write that function inside this. Okay, so I want to print starting, then name, whatever the name that has been passed, then thread lock acquire, that is we are acquiring the lock, and then what will happen, just printing the statement, then release, and then exiting. Okay, then inside this printing, what I can say, this printing time will actually show us that at what time, like this is the function that is used to actually like current time. It's actually the current time. It will show you the current time. Okay, and then count. Okay, so I guess I don't have to explain it again and again. It's very easy. Just what we are doing, we are printing the time. Okay, and then delay, then counter. Okay, we are setting the count, how many times we want that specific thread to work. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm starting two threads, or you can say I'm initializing two threads, that is thread 1 and thread 2. And then you I guess you remember that what we need to do, we need to in order to make that thread to run, or you can say to make it in the state of running, what we need to do, we need to start it. Okay, so start function, and then this join function, I guess you remember what is the purpose of this join function. We just use it to execute, to execute this thread 1 and thread 2, then we need to execute this main thread, whatever the code is. Okay, it waits all the thread to get executed, then only it will allow the interpreter to move further. Okay, so let me just show you how it works. Okay, before moving to that, let me show you, like, if I don't use this what let's see, if I don't use this acquire and release. Okay, this acquire and release function, then what? Yeah, and also let me just show you how we actually create the what I can say, how we actually create the object of lock. Because here I'm not importing all the attributes. What I have done, I have just imported the threading module. So let me just show you how. Yeah, so you can see inside this threading class I have this lock. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm importing this threading module, sorry, threading module, and this lock class has been what I can say, it is getting instantiated. Okay, inside this threading module we have this lock class. Okay, you can go and see inside this threading module what, where is this lock class, if you want to know more about it then. Okay, so yeah, let me just show you without acquire what happens. Okay, so I'm running this Python file. What happens? Let me just show you. So if I run this, starting thread 1, starting thread 2, thread 1, thread 2, it's like it's random. It's not fixed that first thread 1 will be executed or thread 2 will be executed. Whichever is getting first executed, it is getting shown here. So here you can see what happens. 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. That is thread 1, then thread 2, then thread 1, then thread 2. Okay. And the counter part is this. Like it is showing us that it will get executed 5 times, and this is the time. Okay, and the name. Okay, now let me just show you how this acquire and release will work. If I acquire this lock, then we know that what we are doing, we are first sending thread 1, or we can first starting thread 1 and then thread 2. So let me just show you what happens. Starting thread 1, starting thread 2, and then thread 2 is waiting now. Okay, because thread 1 is getting executed, exiting thread 1, thread 2 gets executed, or it is acquiring the lock and it gets executed, then done main thread. Okay, so basically what happens, you can see first we are having this statement, that is both the threads are getting executed. Okay, like here in this function you can see yeah, like in this run function, here till here both the t1 and t2, or you can say thread 1 and thread 2, has reached this point and they are getting executed, you can see. But as soon as this threadlock.acquire function is getting called, it means that now thread 2 has to wait and thread 1 is getting executed. Okay, so I guess now the concept is clear, because I have tried to explain it in very easy way. So yeah, now let's come to this rlog concept. Okay, because we are, I guess you are clear with what is the use of lock, and like why we are using it. And let's just see what is this rlog. Okay, so rlog basically means, the full form is reentrant. Okay, reentrant lock. It means the thread can acquire the same lock again and again. Okay, this will block the thread only if the lock is held by any other thread. Now what is happening, there was one problem in this lock. Okay, when we were using simple lock class, okay, this simple lock, there was one problem, and that problem was that we know that only one lock can acquire. Okay, only one thread can acquire one lock. Okay, we know that. But what if the same thread is trying to acquire that lock? Or you can say, in case of recursion, we know that what is the recursion? Recursion is function calling itself. Okay, function is calling itself. That means we are having one function, and inside that function we are again calling that same function. So in case of that, what is happening? The same thread, okay, the thread that has acquired the lock is getting blocked because because it is not recognizing it. Okay, the problem is that suppose, let me give you one example. This is the gate, okay, and now what happens? There is two gates. Suppose, imagine that I'm trying to give you one rough example. Thread 1 is there and thread 2 is there. Thread 1 has entered this room, okay, and now thread 1 needs to enter it again. Okay, it it wants to enter it again. Okay, enter again. But what is happening? According to this gate, no one has opened it. Okay, no one has opened this door, so no one can enter here. Okay, so you are getting what is the problem here inside for this lock concept. Okay, it actually tells us that even though the same thread is acquiring that lock, but it will show error, or you can say it will not allow that same thread to acquire that lock if it tries to. Okay, so reentrant means the thread can acquire the same lock again and again. Okay, the problem will be solved in this case, but it will be blocked, or you can say the other all the other threads needs to wait. The same thread can acquire it, but not other ones. Okay, so this will block the thread only if the lock is held by any other thread. Okay, reentrant facility is available only for owner thread, but not for other threads. Okay, I guess this is clear. This R log keeps track of recursion level. Okay, basically it is used for recursion, that is function calling itself. Okay, and hence for every acquire there should be a release call available. Okay, now what is this? This is very important. Okay, it actually tells you that if I have one acquire, okay, if I have one acquire, then we should have the specifying, or you can say that respective release function. Okay, if I have this acquire, then I need to have this respective release function. Okay, otherwise this will show an error. Okay, so that's the main motive of this rlog concept. Okay, the number of acquire calls, okay, and release call should be matched then for the log to be released. That is, if there are two acquire calls, then there should be two release call for the log to be released. If there is only one release call for two acquire call, then the log won't be released. Okay, so this is how it allows. Okay, so in a simple word, if we see, then if I'm locking the door, then I need to open it to enter again. Okay, or to allow other to enter. Okay, so yeah, that was not the case in simple lock. In simple lock, what was there? We can acquire, but what was the problem there? That we cannot allow, or you can say the same lock, or you can say the same thread cannot acquire the same lock. Okay, again and again it will show, or it will show the block. Okay, it will block that thread. Okay, so what we are doing, importing the all the attributes from threading module, time, and then creating the, or you can say I'm creating an object of rlock. Okay, same way l dot acquire, then l dot release. I'm using this you can say this factorial function. So you can see what is happening. Recursion is actually this. Recursion concept means here inside this factorial. Okay, I am inside this factorial method, and I'm calling this factorial method by passing any other parameter. What is happening? It's just like suppose my name is John. Okay, my name is John, and I am saying that, hey John, just go there. Okay, it's just like that. I'm giving myself any order. I can say I'm calling myself. Okay, it's just like that. So in case of that, if we use the simple log concept, then it will show us error. The thread will be blocked. Okay, so you can try it yourself. You can see what happens. But if you use this rlog concept, then it is very easy for us, because what is happening, for every acquire we have this release method. Okay, so return result. Okay, so I guess this will be clear. It's simple factorial code. where factorial, I guess you know it. What is 5 factorial? It is 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. Okay. So yeah, that's the basic concept, and I guess now you're clear with where and when we need to use which type of lock. Okay. So yeah, that's the basic difference. You can read it by yourself, because I guess I have tried to clear all the concept. You can take the screenshot, you can read it by yourself. Then synchronization by semaphore in Python. So when to use this semaphore lock? Okay, semaphore is advanced synchronization mechanism. Sometimes there might be requirement where at a time a particular number of threads should be allowed to access the resource. Like at a time 10 members are allowed. Now like see, what is the basic motive of this thread concept? Like why we are actually studying this thread? We know that why we are doing it, because I want two process, or you can say I want two sub tasks to be done at the same time. That was my main motive to study this. But by if I am using, or if I am doing this synchronization concept, then I'm actually, what I'm doing, I'm going back to the same problem. That was what was the problem? That like it was taking more time, it was taking more memory. Okay, the same thing, we are back to the same point. That's of no use. But by the help of the semaphore, we can actually do that too. We can allow that this number of, or these number of people are allowed to enter this room. So that's the basic like you can say the advantage of the semaphore, that we can even allow that I want this number of threads to be executed at same time. Okay, that is, I would say n threads, it can be any number. Okay, so, like at a time, 10 members are allowed to access the database server, or at a time, 4 members are allowed to access network connection. Okay, we can't handle this requirement using lock or R lock concept. Hence, we should go for semaphore concept in such cases. Okay, I guess this is clear when to use which kind of lock. Okay, we have three kind of lock, or you can say three kind of way in which we can do synchronization. That is R, that's lock, R lock, and then semaphore. Okay, so this is how you need to do while just creating, or you can say by while creating an object of this semaphore. You need to pass this argument. This, it's very important. This says that two threads are allowed to work at the same time. Okay, that's the simple thing, or you can say simple concept. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm using this you can say T1, T2, T3, T4, T1, T2 start, and T3, T4 start. What does it mean? It means that T1 and T2 can work, or you can say they can have this parallelism concept, or you can say they can work simultaneously. But at that time, T3 and T4 have to wait. Okay, they have to wait to T1 and T2 to get executed. Okay, so yeah, that's how same format, acquire and release. You can do this code for getting more concept clear. So just giving the overview, or you can say just ending this video by just like explaining you that what were the things that we have studied. Basically, when to use lock is simple one. That is, in case of lock, what we were doing, the main problem was that the same thread was getting blocked if it was trying to acquire that lock. Okay, in case of simple concept of lock, our lock was used when, so our lock can, it basically means that we the same number of acquire and release method should be there, so that in case of recursion there will be no problem. Then semaphore was actually used when, so it was allowing us to like specific number of threads to get executed at the same time. So I guess this concept of threading and multi-threading and like when to use this synchronization is clear. You can go explore. You can try some very like interesting projects. You can do that. You can, because this threading concept is actually used everywhere. If you're clear with this concept, it can help you. Okay, it can help you a lot. Okay, so by this we come to the end of a video. I guess you liked it, and do give your reviews. Thank you.